I am feeling a tremendous amount of joy and also of appreciation and just being here in the moment, which I find is a lot of times is a miracle in itself. To be here in this space with Maria Teresa Pratico Swanson. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your willingness to be in this space, especially in light of what has been going on there, the past 48 or
Yes.
72 hours.
Thank you, Jeff. It is always a pleasure to chat, especially deeply. I enjoy deep conversations.
Yeah, thank you so much. Absolutely. Well, I want to start out, if I could. I've had an opportunity to read some about you, and my tendency is that I like to, of course, I am very interested, and that's ultimately why I reached out. But what I really enjoy and really value is to have the opportunity to hear from people in their own words about their journey and their experiences and what that means to them. So, if I could, just to start out the conversation, if I could ask you what your inner spiritual journey, or however you might refer to that, what that and the work that you are doing with people and in the world, what those things mean to you at a deeper level.
They mean absolutely everything to me. I believe that I came here as a soul to grow, to be free, to speak my truth, and to shine my light and to help others to do so. So I say that I'm here to help heal humanity one heart at a time through poetry and shamanic healing. And this is something that I've done in many, many, many lifetimes. I've been a healer and I continue to do so. In order to do that, I've had to heal myself through many of the experiences and traumas that I have been through in life. So I believe that life is what you make of it. It's not necessarily what happens to you, it's what you do with it.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I deeply honor that. I would love to, in as much as as much as you feel would be pertinent to this conversation. I don't know if there is a certain aha moment in in your journey, or just a certain turning point that you might speak to, just in terms of there being a a formative shift in your life journey.
Well, I would definitely say that my suicide attempt in 2011 was my bottom. It was my gift of desperation, and where I really had a clear opportunity to better my life, to figure out what was going on with Maria. And ultimately, I chose to go down the path of healing. So that's really where it all began. There's been many things that have occurred in my life, but I feel like that was the biggest wake up call for sure.
Yeah, and then just looking back, at your childhood, just getting a
Hmm.
sense of, was there any sort of connection with spirit, or was there any context
Oh
that you
yes,
had to the life,
yeah.
to the journey that you've been on at that
Yes,
time,
there
or when
there
you were
was
little?
always a great deal of faith in my life. My parents are both devout Catholics. My sister and I went to Catholic school for some time. We attended church. We were always involved in activities surrounding faith. And now I would consider myself spiritual. I don't subscribe to any one religious dogma. I am a believer of God and of the creator and of light, and that is where I sit today. But there's always been a pull in that direction, learning prayers that are still near and dear to me. I say I come from a long line of candle lighters. We Catholics we like to light candles. So when I light candles in my office, that is me honoring my ancestors. And I've always, known that I was different. So these were things that weren't necessarily okay to talk about growing up, that I had just felt spirits, felt and saw angels, could see colors around people, could understand people's thoughts pretty clearly, sometimes more clearly than my own, which was scary. That was scary, and that sent me with some other behaviors that I developed, but that definitely, becoming an alcoholic, that seemed like a solution for me
Yeah.
to drown out all of this extra stuff that I didn't know how to handle or talk about. Because in our country, it's not very welcomed to talk about those things. People look at you as crazy.
Yeah. Is there just kind of retracing the beginning of this journey and kind of
Mm.
exploring that some more deeply? I'm wondering if there were any certain practices or any certain teachings that were resonating with you in the early stages.
My parents, being the Catholics that they were fairly charismatic. Our church had a lot of singing, and they had taken me to healing masses. One in particular that I remember because I was very young and I had a lot of ear issues, and I was going to have ear tubes put into my ears. And my parents took me to this mass where people were, you know, falling out and speaking in tongues. And, looking back at that now, I understand that to be light language. That is something that I express myself, which is
Yeah.
prayer. But when my parents took me to the doctor after this healing mass, the doctor said, "Oh, she doesn't need ear tubes." And my parents were like, they were just like, astonished with this miracle that had occurred. I've also known, my mom has, told me about my birth itself. It's called an uncowl, or a mermaid birth. So I was born completely intact in my amniotic sac, which is a
Hmm.
sign of a healer or a mystic. And the nurses and people in the hospital were there just were so taken back and told my mom, like, "Oh, your daughter is very, very special." And so I think in a lot of ways, I know my mom in certain ways has said that to me. But with the way life has kind of unfolded, it was maybe hard to believe for a long, long time. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was always, I've always felt, and I still do to this day, if I'm asked to go into a church or any religious establishment, a temple, really anywhere where there is an honoring of the sacred, I feel very connected, very safe, very welcomed. So yeah, it's always been in me, for sure. That's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. And then, of course, also looking at at your, and I don't know if this would be, this is not a word based on a belief that I have or that
Mm.
I'm, rationally trying to label this,
Mm-hmm.
but I was going to tell you that what's coming through intuitively is I'm
Mm.
wanting to ask you, after your emergence from that point in time in your life, or that chapter in your life in 2011,
Mm.
as you emerged, if that word is apt, or if that
Yeah,
makes
I like
sense,
that.
would love to
Emergence.
hear anything that you might speak of in terms of if there were at that time any specific practices or any community that you got involved with, or any person along the way that you were walking that journey with, so to speak.
Well, at that time, I was really entrenched in the mental health uh, system here in our country, and I'm really, really grateful that I had a really positive experience with that. Not many people can say that going to a mental hospital was beneficial for them. It was for me. I was in Rhode Island. I had applied for a grant to be seen. So I proceeded to go through all of their programs. And DBT was incredibly important to me, dialectical behavioral therapy. I did an outpatient program 3 different times, and that program afforded me an aftercare group that met twice a week for an entire year. And after that container was closed, we women just dispersed and we didn't exchange information. That was part of it, and that was really, really helpful for me. Very, very helpful. So I had those groups. I also had I was going through a divorce at the time too, so I had a lot of other programs that were available for free to be a part of, and I went to them. Parents of divorce, people who were going through divorce, who were parents, because I have 2 children. So I've always had the ability to find support, and that was really, really helpful for me. Meditation has always been really, really important to me as well. I've been practicing yoga since right before my first son was born, and he's 23. So we're nearing, 24, 25 years of practicing yoga. And that is, breath movement connected to your body. So that has always been really helpful for me. So yeah, I would say those things, along with being with a really great therapist in those days, were really, really helpful for me. So I was in more of the mainstream mental health lane for quite some time until about 2016, 2017. And I started to get more interested in essential oils and so like aromatherapy, and just kind of branched out into my spirituality, and then met my mentor in 2019. And that was when I had my spiritual awakening. So that was like me really coming out of this cocoon that I had been in for most of my life.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and I'm wondering too, as you know, as that happened, as that awakening occurred, and there was coming out of that cocoon, so to speak. Is there anything that you might speak to, just in terms of, was there any seeing or appreciating or even feeling, getting a
Mm.
sense of certain things that maybe who you thought you were, that you ended up letting go of? And then also the opposite of that, if there were, if there were
Mm.
things you were discovering about who and what you are, so to speak.
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. So I feel like a spiritual awakening is when you come alive to your own truth and the truth of your existence here in this world. Like, why am I here? So I started to understand my purpose, and I started to see myself in like everything opposite of what I believed. Like I believed that I felt, I mean, to want to take your own life, you feel very hopeless. That was a very big feeling, like a very heavy feeling that I felt for so long. Hopeless. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel worthy. And a lot of that is just accepting myself, and looking for that in other people and other things, which, now I know, like, you cannot externalize any of those things. You have to start from within. And so I'd say the turning point of that is like believing in myself, knowing I have a purpose, being curious. That's something that has maintained my entire life. I have always been a very curious individual. I like to learn. I like to read. I like to know more. And sometimes it drives people around me like crazy, but that is something that I've always held on to. That is a very deep part of me. And I'm a deep person. So it's like, for a long time, my depth was scary. Just my own depth was something that frightened me. And now I just have so much faith and trust in my guides and where I'm going, that I know I can come back to my center. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like
Oh
I've
yeah.
kind of like just, I mean, I think that comes from an ungroundedness as well. So for very much of my life, because of all the trauma I was experiencing, I was living and existing in a state of dissociation most of the time. Just poof, right out of my body, just popped right out of my body. And I got very used to functioning that way in a constant fight or flight, which is very taxing on your nervous system. So everything, even like thinking back when I was a child, life was very scary and overwhelming to me. I'm light and sound sensitive, so I'm a highly sensitive person. And, there wasn't those opportunities for like safe, calm, quiet in my home. It just wasn't available. So that was just very disruptive to me. So I got used to kind of existing that way. And when things really started to slow down and come back to a center, whew, I mean, it just wakes up so many other things. I understand the world in sound and in movement, and a lot of my poetry revolves around that. So it was almost impossible for me to listen in the way that my being is created to listen. So yeah, I'd say that was a major, a major thing. Being able to hear my own self over the noise of others, and then ultimately hearing, spirit, hearing our creator, hearing the beings that guide me today. That was like virtually impossible, and also scary. So it's like, I just didn't want to hear any of that.
Yeah, this is I don't know that I've ever out of the almost 8 years of doing this. Not that that
Mm.
matters, but this is really I'm having this very interesting. There is a, and of course I feel very badly. As I was as it came through, I was almost thinking about not bringing it up because I realized
Mm.
that people who are listening to this don't have the benefit of seeing this. But I decided to trust my heart and just
Yes.
move forward with this and just take the leap. There is a work of art behind you, and
Hmm.
as you were speaking about that depth of yourself,
Mm.
and I can't remember exactly what the word you used for for navigating that, so to speak. I mean, I definitely in my heart I can remember the feelings that you're expressing, but ultimately the exact words. And as I was listening to you speak about that, there's this sense because you're seated right in front of this work, and so
Hmm.
to me, and I realize I may not necessarily be able to realize what the painting is, if it is a painting, but it's there's like this immense ocean. And so as you're
Hmm.
speaking, I was really getting this deep intuitive sense coming through of you navigating that deep ocean.
Well,
I'm there again, I don't know if
that's
anything's there or
beautiful,
not.
Jeff. So the picture behind me is actually a picture of a palm tree, but because it's blue, there's a lot of blue in there. There's a lot of
Oh,
blue
yeah.
in there. So I
Yeah.
love that you're saying the ocean. So this is not a quote of mine. This is not something I've written, but it's something I've heard and I deeply believe in and can affirm to. I feel like religion is a goldfish in a bowl and spirituality is the ocean. And we as human beings have no idea how vast and deep the ocean is. I mean, it's endless. It's like outer space, you know. It's our outer space in water, and that is just the most gorgeous thing. I mean, yes, that is exactly what I've been trying to do is just navigate the depths, understand them more and let go, because a lot of that is just letting go to the unknown. You know, I say like getting to the point where like the abyss is staring back at you and you're staring at it and you keep going.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is one I can certainly identify with
Hmm.
without a
Hmm.
doubt. And of course, you were speaking of your poetry. I'm curious if that is something that you were doing before your awakening, or just anything you
Hmm.
might share as far
Yeah.
as what that has meant to you since your awakening.
I have always been a writer. When I was a child, I used to tell my mom that I was going to become a screenwriter. And we were in summer school, but it was like fun summer school. It wasn't like summer school punishment. It was like, cooking classes and horticulture classes and writing classes and dance classes and things like that. And I was in a writing class where we created our own book. And that was like the coolest thing to me. So I've always been writing. I've had journals my whole life. And I've always mused on poetry. And it took somebody else out, a complete stranger that I met, of course, organically, to ask me, do you write poetry? And I said, well, I do. And she said, you should start a blog. And I had no
Hmm.
idea what a blog was. And I sat with it and I investigated it and I said, okay, I can do this. And that was the beginning of Emotional Musings in 2018. That was when it was birthed. So when I look back, because that was like a year before, just about a year, about 9 months before my awakening. And I look back at what I was writing then and what I'm writing now. I mean, it boggles my mind. It's just, I'm very, very proud of it. And mostly it was to stay in touch with myself, but for others to feel a connection and to say, okay, wait, that happens to me. I can understand that. That resonates with me, and to not feel alone, because that was something that I think has been part of like that's been an illusion for me, feeling alone, feeling abandoned, not feeling understood in this life. And I feel like my journey now is really embracing all of everything that we are, and we are everything. So I feel like, I started it so people didn't feel alone, didn't feel crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sharing that with the world. That is where it's at. And speaking of that, Would love to to hear any reflections or what you might share. I didn't know if there was just a a moment in time when you and there again, I not knowing how this unfolded,
Yeah.
where you felt guided. There again, I'm not sure if I'm using the right word to
Mm-hmm,
actually
mm-hmm,
start
mm-hmm.
working with people and helping them get in touch with the depth of themselves. And
Yeah, so that definitely was a seed that was planted by my mentor. So I met Lindsay, or again, organically through Instagram. I was ready to unearth the pit of my trauma, which was being sexually abused at 5 and 6 years old. And I was scrolling through Instagram and I happened to see her post and she was offering free consultations. And so I reached out to her and we had a session. I was certainly not looking for a shaman. But when I met her and we started having sessions together and healing different things, every single thing in my life changed. And she had said at one point, Maria, you are very powerful. Let me help you, hone your gifts. Let me help you use these gifts that you have. And at first I was like, wow, that's really kind. And then it just took a different turn. It was like that, which I felt was a compliment at the time, was like, wait a minute, there's something to this. And I became very, very curious about it. And I took an apprenticeship with her and learned how to really do what I've been doing my whole life, but do it in a safe way. Because when you are like me and you see souls and you're able to easily journey into the shamanic world, which is just this in between altered state of being, I was doing that very dangerously as somebody who can channel. I was channeling things that I should not have been channeling, and taking on people's energy, not allowing it to be through my spirit guides. And so, yeah, like the very first session that I held with her, I said, oh, this is very familiar. I have done this before. And so the practices that I lean into, because we're very different healers. That is a beautiful thing about being taught by somebody who is like a natural born teacher, which she is. She always put everything back on me. Like, how are you going to tap in and what's going to feel right for you? And so, of course, a lot of my poetry comes in. Because it's all channeled poetry, and music is a very big part of it for me. Toning and chanting, and now light language is a part of it. Crystals are a part of it. I'm like always holding crystals, burning candles, like making everything smell in a certain way. But it's all very ancient practices, things that have been guided to me through my own ancestry. So yeah, all of that just felt so natural and so like everything made sense. Like, oh, this is why I have all of these like abilities that, to most people maybe don't talk about them, or they're just not connected to them, because I believe that all of us have these abilities to a certain extent. But we were made to heal. Human beings are created to heal. We're not created to, take a pill. Like that is what I'm honoring. I'm honoring ancient practices, things that were taken away from our ancestors, centuries ago. And people like me are bringing this back to heal not only ourselves, but to heal Mother Earth. So we're here for balancing. And of course, this is all happening now during this great awakening time. So there's been many of us who woke up prior to 2020. And now we're in this mass awakening, which will occur for the next few years. More and more people will become aware of like, wait a minute, we've got to help the earth. We've got to get in tune with ourselves. What am I eating? What am I consuming? All of these things. And that's exactly what I'm here to help lead the masses in doing, is a way back to ourselves and to Mother Earth.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
Thank you.
Also wanted to ask you what it has been like for your heart, soul, and spirit to actually to share these practices with others, and to see others actually coming into their
Mm.
own awakening and beginning to shed those things that are no longer serving, and to find things within themselves that they didn't even know was there, so to speak, or maybe they did, but just being
Mm.
able to really fully inhabit that. And I know that was a lot. Sorry.
There's, Jeff, I come from my father's, I'm going to get very emotional. My father's a very humble person. The person I live my life with is a very humble person. And so it is overwhelming to me to see other people grow and shine and knowing that I was a part of it. There's not a lot of words for it. It's just so beautiful. And I feel like it's really what we all need to be doing as human beings. This is what we're here to do. We're here to connect. We're here to love. We're here to be compassionate. We're here to hold space. We grow together. It's not, this idea of separateness. No, we're all one. So I feel like I mean, there's an elation and a joy inside of me to see other people being able to be who they are. And it's like, it's just beautiful. It's like, being able to, there's a lot of, poetry that comes to my mind, like listening to your own heart song, singing from soul, like just joining in this grand chorus that we all are a part of, which is life here on earth. It's just this amazing grand chorus. So a lot of the things I've been writing about this year, being that, going a little bit into astrology, I am in my Jupiter return. And so a Jupiter cycle is 12 years. And so I believe that I'm closing out a long chapter of healing some really deep stuff, going through a divorce, attempting suicide, addiction. I've had an eating disorder my whole life that has been touched on healing wise for a very, very long time. I feel like I'm finally shedding those things and I'm able to really now work my purpose in a much more empowered way. And so the tune is changing and the symphony is getting, like we're warming up for a new opus.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. So yeah, helping other people understand their own song. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering too, in some cases, if just the I don't want to use the word rules, but just I know
Mm.
that, I know Western music has certain conventions to it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a musician, so I want to be careful to go any further. But I'm really wondering if if not only the frequencies are changing, but I also
Mm-hmm.
wonder if maybe the way this works, so to speak. That's probably about the best I can do, which I apologize. I
Yes.
wish I could say
No,
that
no,
more
that makes a lot of
cogently.
sense. And that's very, very important. So, as the light is pouring into this earth, in terms of, I'm somebody who watches the sun's activity. So, I have a solar flare tracker, and we're having so many more powerful solar flares. Yesterday was actually a severe geometric storm. All of these things affect us because we are mostly made of water. So, sound emanates through water, like water amplifies sound. So the frequency on earth is rising. There is a main frequency, and that frequency is changing. It's becoming higher. And so that makes our vibrations higher. And so it totally is, Jeff. It very much is. And I can, out in the world, because I'm energetically aware, I can see people who are at a lower frequency, I startle them just by
Hmm.
me, just my presence alone. I startle them.
Hmm.
And it's because they're just existing in a lower vibration.
Yeah.
Also, same thing with my language. Like, it's almost like we speak a different language. People will not understand me. I'll have to repeat myself. And it's because I'm at a higher frequency. So that's exactly what's happening. The frequencies are raising, the vibrations are raising, and we are moving from this third dimension reality, welcoming in a fifth dimension, which is just the purity of love. And so we are really going back to what we were originally created to be here on this earth. And so I believe this is gonna get a like, borderline on things that people maybe don't understand or don't want to understand, but like the
Yeah.
hidden worlds of like Lumeria. These things
Yeah.
are going to be coming
Yeah.
back. Like they were just, below the ocean. They're going to be rising. We already are finding different mountain ranges coming out of the ocean. This is no mistake. There's no mistake. This is all happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Mm-hmm.
that, just these the laws of the universe unfolding as it does.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yes.
really getting a sense, do you get a sense that this is something that I've certainly been feeling, and there again, I can't explain it rationally, but
Mm-hmm.
just this, you get a sense of just, what it is to be a human being. is evolve, that what that experience is evolving, not only
Yes.
individually but collectively.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're here to do. We're here to evolve. We're here to this is the greatest, most unprecedented time in human history because we will never be the same again. So I believe in like 20, 30 years, we'll look back and go, "Oh my gosh, look at how we were operating without like all of our senses on board." And so, so much more of our, I say, like our cosmic history, our galactic nature is coming on board. And like, I actually wrote a poem about it recently called Galactic Warrior,
Huh.
which I'd like to share here because,
Yeah, no, thank you. I
this
was
is
getting ready.
part of,
I wanted to ask you. I just didn't want to put you on the spot, so to
no,
speak.
no,
So
this
no,
is what
this
I
is
do.
great.
I love, love,
Yeah.
love sharing poems like this. This one came through actually right the week, oh, excuse me, the week of the last full moon, which was a lunar eclipse. So these last few months have been so, so powerful being in eclipse season. This full moon coming up will be our third supermoon in a row, meaning that the moon is so much closer to Earth than it usually is. And so this is like an ode to my light worker family, and just how the ascension levels are revealed in divine time. Galactic warrior. Fiery, molten, burning ash, recycled into life force energy from off planet trash. Gifted seer comes alive in the moonlight. Heart sung hymns proclaim the completed resurrection, lifting off the land, awe inspiring spiritual levitation. Blessed born starseed, ancient transformation. Child of the galaxy arrives to share galactic information. Dancing to spirited rhythmic tales, breathing cosmic infused crystalline air, stepping out graciously from the shadows, running wild through flowers, blooming like skyrise towers. Take a ride on the back of the dragon who guides your travels. Fairies comb and arrange her auburn red hair, magically aligned to the destiny her natal chart has defined. Pure-hearted and free, throwing rainbows energetically, leaving the past behind her unapologetically, inclined to soar with the angels, flowing effortlessly with all of the elementals as she changes. Time and process are not in her care, intuitively knowing she will arrive when she's meant to get there. Divine light being, following her soul's purpose, transcribing messages for the masses is her humble service.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Yes.
that is what I'm here to do. So
Yeah. That's and I feel like you were communicating. I mean, yeah, it was coming through, and it just it was it almost felt like in some ways it was a different language. It was a different
mhm.
way of sharing
Mhm.
them
Mhm.
than
Yes.
and obviously I love hearing about people's journeys, but I think that's what you the way that you shared that is on a different frequency, so to speak. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes it
And
is.
it
Yes it is. Yeah.
and
Yep.
that, in fact, what was coming through as you shared that too was, when you were speaking about, getting in touch with and there again, this is just, I don't want to try to interpret this, but getting in touch
No.
with our connection with the universe, and that it's not
Mhm.
all, and I guess maybe is there layers to this? Is this like what they call a Russian doll, where you have the dolls within the
Oh,
dolls? So
yes.
we're not just our thoughts. And then it gets into, we're all a part of a collective. And then you open that doll up, suddenly
Mhm.
we're all part of the earth, and then you just continue to keep opening these, and we're part of the solar system, the galaxy. And I know I'm going on
Yeah.
here, but I had
Yes, Jeff.
yeah.
That is exactly what it is. So we here in human form in this 3D reality, if you're, I believe, part of this matrix, that is what is fed to you. We live in a linear world. Everything is about thoughts, your mind, your mind, your mind. And people like me are here to say, absolutely not.
Yeah.
There's so much more to you. And it's your heart, it's your consciousness. And your heart consciousness is what connects you to your soul. And this is something that is everlasting and eternal. And it goes on and on and on through many, many, many lifetimes. It's not just this one. Um, and there is so much more than what can be seen through the human eye. And there's people like me who understand that. I lean in heavily to my third eye visions, and I actually see a lot of these beings. They're right here with me all the time. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, like this is an opening to that. And I'm just one of many people who experience communications with angels, who can see angels, who understand the power of dragons, star beings, light beings. Like these are all things that many more people are becoming more aware of because we're meant to. This is by no mistake, and I am an alien. I'm here for a reason. I'm
I
not.
love it.
I'm here in human form, but that's for a reason.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be scared of. All of these things I think have been like sensationalized, but they're a part of who we are. Where Earth is just a part of something much grander, much grander.
Yeah, that reminds me. I had a teacher very early in my journey. He was an older European gentleman,
Mm.
and so he would always speak about how the idea was to not get stuck in what he called locality, to get stuck in our own body,
Mm.
and to believe that what we were
Yes.
experiencing was everything. So he always referred to it as getting in touch with globality, which I realize it's even beyond, the
Ooh,
earth, so to
I
speak.
love
But that
that.
that was really, and it took me, I heard it, I thought I understood it, and then I realized I didn't need to understand it anymore. That wasn't the point.
No, it's
And
just to kind
yeah.
of open yourself to like, I think of that when you said that, I think of it like this. I used to, like I mentioned, live in Rhode Island, and I love Rhode Island. It's a very beautiful state. It's a small little state.
Yeah.
But my neighbors were always so curious about what I was doing because I didn't
Hmm.
stay just in my little town, on my side of the street. I was everywhere. I was driving to Providence. I was going to Boston. I was in Newport. I was like doing all these different things because many people that I knew just wanted to stay in their little home on their street, on their side of town, and I'm not going to go to the store another town over. And that to me is like, what? Like that to me was so bizarre. And
Yeah.
that's part of my nature. I enjoy travel. I enjoy, like, I'm curious and I like to try things. And yeah, it's like, don't box yourself in. You don't have to stay small. And that speaks to ego, right? So ego wants to keep us small and safe, keep this in this little
Yeah.
neat box. And soul is like, nope, let's like rip off this side and let's have this experience happen. And it doesn't have to be judged as good or bad. It just is. And it's going to expand you. And that is so this year, that was my word. My word was expansion. 2024 is the year of expansion.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Yeah.
that so many people can relate to that because
Oh,
we're
absolutely.
being
It's that
pulled in so
resonates.
many different directions for a reason. It's all
Yeah.
divinely guided.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were speaking as well, there was something else that has been coming through as well. And I
Oh,
was
good.
reminded of this a few weeks ago, and I wasn't really trying to hold on to it, but it's just my understanding through being involved in the Zen community for years. There was
Mm.
one of the first Japanese Zen teachers that came to the United States. He was one of the first, not that any of this matters, but ultimately he was one of the first Japanese teachers that brought Zen to the US and ultimately led to the opening of the Zen Center in Los Angeles.
Mm.
And one of his the teachings that he gave that he was remembered for in a lot of cases was the very short phrase appreciate life. And what I loved about it is
Mm.
it can sound very trite. Okay, I appreciate life, it's just, but the idea was with what was being taught, and I realized that I couldn't even know this until I really felt it, that there,
Yes.
I'm wondering if that resonates with you in any way
Oh,
and how that speaks
yes.
to you.
Oh my gosh, Jeff. Absolutely. I live my life in so much gratitude because of the things I've experienced. Like nothing in my life is the same. It is all it's just beautiful and I'm so grateful. Which helps me, and all of this again has been an inside job of like seeing myself and caring for myself and loving myself, and therefore I'm able to do that with others. Compassion is just, actually it's on my tea bag because I
Hmm.
drink yogi tea. And
Yeah.
before this interview, I made some tea. Compassion is the constant act of giving oneself to others. And that is what compassion is. That's what I feel like we're here to do. It's all these
Yeah.
like simple golden rules, treat others like you were meant to be treated, like you would like to be treated. It doesn't, it's not, it doesn't have to be hard, and it can be simple, like I am somebody who, when I'm with other people, I like to look people in the eye. I like to pay attention to what they're saying. And if I can't do that, then I'm not meant to be with other people. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very careful about my energy and where I put it and when I put it out there. And it takes mindfulness. It takes just the care of caring for yourself so then you can be present for other people. That's very big to me. Yeah. That's beautiful. Of course. Yeah. I live in so much gratitude. And that started early on when, I, was in the depths of hopelessness and depression and just, oh God, that vibration is the closest to death itself, to feel shame and guilt within oneself. And I started reading like Melody Beattie. So she's like, affirmations, and I'd put things on my mirror and I'd say things out loud to myself. And like you're saying, it's one thing to read something like that. It's one thing to see it and to hear it. It's a totally other thing to feel it. When you feel something, then it's connected to you, and you can own that. And that's when you really understand something. That's wisdom, knowing something, reading something. Well, that's great. But when you feel it, that's the difference. And so I started to really feel these things and seeing the progress that I was making in my own life. And I have like so much to be grateful for these days.
Yeah, I'm so glad you've spoken to this, and I really honor your willingness to speak about those times that were not easy, and that there was times that were painful. Do you find that in some ways, who you are today, and and where you are today, and in the energy in which you are today, do you find that appreciation of life is also? Do you find yourself appreciating even times when things are painful and things?
Oh my gosh, I 100%, Jeff. I am so grateful because I feel that pain is a motivator. I have taken pain and turned it into power. I'm grateful for the lessons that I had to experience and go through to show me who I am, to show me my strength. So it's not a stopping point. And suffering is also a mass illusion of we're the society is addicted to suffering. No. It's supposed to be a temporary thing, and then you move on. You do not need to stay suffering. That's not the point. So I am grateful to have been through abuse, to have tried to take my own life. I'm grateful for finding myself at the bottom of a bottle. I mean, those things were rough, but what did they do? They were catalysts. They were motivators. That's what pain is. It's like when the pain of being in pain becomes too much, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you do something about your life. You change. So I just needed things in a really hard, I say we put our hand on the hot stove. I put my hand on the hot stove and got 3rd-degree burns multiple times until I finally was like, wait a minute, maybe there's another way to do this thing. But yes, I 100% am. I talk about those things with so much gratitude because it helped me wake up. It helped me be who I am. And now I know that I never have to go back to that. It's not something that I think about. I don't have those cravings anymore. I don't want to hurt myself because I love myself. So why would I want to hurt myself? Why would I want to, for me personally, I'm not one of those people who can just have a glass of wine. Nope, I'm going to have the whole bottle and then I'm going to have another bottle. And that's who I am. I do everything to the extreme. So I can't do certain things because that's going to hurt me. And I appreciate that. I love it. I mean, I used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I and it's crazy because I also am a dancer and an athlete, and I've being, physically fit is very important to me. Yeah. And it's just wild that I lived in this delusion that I could do all of those things at once. Yeah. Because you can't. So that's been a big change for me. And nowadays I don't even I don't even drink coffee. I don't have caffeine. Like I don't put any substances in my body that are going to alter me in any way, shape, or form. And that is huge because I lived wanting to alter myself all the time. And it's like the opposite. Like the idea of feeling high is scary to me. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no, because then I wouldn't be present. I wouldn't be able to feel anything. And so that's a
Right.
huge thing. Like we have to feel it to heal it. So I want to feel everything that goes on. I don't want to mask anything. And that like goes down to your choices. Like if you're feeling really stressed out, well, why are you that stressed out? What are you doing in your life that's keeping you in this like loop of stress? Because you don't have to exist that way.
Yeah.
Everything is manageable. Like it should be. You can manage it. There's many ways to figure that out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to
Pain is
wonder in
not
some
a is
ways,
not
I'm
it's
so
not a
glad you've
period.
spoken of all this. And I do want to say too, I when I asked that question, I certainly didn't want that to be tried either.
Mm-mm.
I do want to say out loud, clearly, my human heart hurts for anyone who
Mm.
has been through anything that has been painful and difficult. But I have so much respect for what you have spoken of and the strength, the inner strength, the place where that comes from, and that
Mm.
shift in consciousness
Mm-hmm.
that the way that is expressed in that energy, it comes through very, very strongly, without a doubt. It really does. I think that that's all the questions that have just come up, or
Yeah.
have been bubbling up to the surface, so to speak. So I wanted to take a moment, and there's no expectation here, but I wanted to
Mm.
give you a little bit of space and time if there's any questions I didn't ask, or just anything
Mm.
beyond what you have shared
No,
that you
I
feel
mean,
moved to share.
I feel like all these conversations that I have on different podcasts are exactly what's meant to be, exactly what's
Yeah.
meant to be said. And actually, just our last little segment here just got me to think, and I'll probably write further about this on my blog. Pain is not a
Yeah.
period. Pain is not a period. Like, boom,
Interesting. I
bam.
love that.
Pain is not a period, people. Let's keep it moving. Pick yourself up and let's go.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. That's so interesting that you say that, because one of the things that I've been thinking about, and just not really, no, I shouldn't say thinking about, but just sitting with,
Hmm.
has been this, sometimes when things are painful and things don't feel good, I've noticed there's this tendency sometimes, and it's just a game that I'm playing with myself. There's this habitual thought that sometimes comes online. How long is it going to be like this? And so I love that you said that
Mm.
pain is not a period, because
Hmm.
ultimately, yeah, and the thing is,
Everything
I
is
know in my
temporary,
heart,
Jeff. Like that. So that is a DBD principle. Feelings are not facts. They're
yeah,
merely sensations. And
yeah,
one of my dear friends, Eve, she teaches yoga, and she will say that sensations are vibrations with information. That's all that is. It's just
yeah,
your body feeling something, and it's like, what do I do with this information? Well, don't stop. Don't give up.
yeah,
Keep investigating. So I feel like these natural born instincts in me to be curious are what have saved me. Because if I didn't remain curious, I would have given up. I tried to give up, and God was like, nope, nope, this isn't your end. You're not meant to stop here, Maria. You have to keep going. This is where you start. This is where you start,
yeah.
is what the message was very clearly. This is where you start. Where are you going to go from here? And the only direction was up because I was on the ground. I was down. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Hmm.
Yeah, and it also makes me reflect too that, is it possible that this shift in consciousness that you've spoken so much of,
Mm.
the ability and the willingness and the resolve to stay with those feelings when they can be very painful, and when it doesn't feel good to quote unquote be here in a
Hmm.
particular moment. I have to wonder, and I know that, human beings, there's this tendency to want to continue to keep going higher, so to speak. There's this desire
Mm.
to transcend, but I really wonder, can there be anything any more transcendent than that? Would that, continuing to practice that
Ah,
willingness of being here and feeling these things?
yes. That's beautiful. So I believe that we are transcending all the time. Now, I
Yeah.
don't believe that we're ever going to fully transcend our ego. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
lot of belief and a lot of people talking out there about like kill the ego. No, 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 no. That's abusive. we
Yeah.
are we are here in this vehicle, okay? Our human body is our vehicle for
Yeah.
exploration. So it's a marry between your soul and your ego. And so we are transcending experiences, we are transcending pain, like we are transcending all the time. So it's a higher consciousness of awareness of just the beingness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wrote
Yeah.
something
That's I always
recently
think I
like,
always think about the word revolution. There's always this,
mm,
revolutions
hmm
that take place out in the world. But I really
yeah.
wonder at the end of the day if the revolution's taking place in here, so to speak.
Yes, it's a heart revolution. This is what I've been writing about when I started really like, I mean, I have almost 800 poems. I'm on book 12 of these collections that I've put together,
Mm,
and it focuses mostly on that. It's a revolution of the heart. It's an understanding. I on the solstice, what came through to me, a channeled message that's called "Everything in the Nothing." And so it's like
mm.
we can look at something and see nothing, but everything is in that moment and all the time. So it's
Yeah.
just understanding that and wanting to understand it, and like knowing that, yeah, we're just more than just these bodies. These are our vehicles. So
Yeah.
get in and throw away all of like the rules and like your roadmap and just like let yourself be taken somewhere else. That's what a shamanic journey really is.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I am so grateful to you. I just want you to know that
Hmm.
I don't, this to me is not a small thing. And I really do value it. You're willing to be here and to share and be present. I'm incredibly, and on a human level, it's been very nice meeting you. But
Yeah.
I also get the sense that I've actually met you on other, through this
Hmm.
conversation, have also been communicating with you through other planes of existence. If that, yeah, there's definitely that sense that yeah,
I
yeah.
love that, Jeff. Most people will say to me, I mean, that's something that I've been told my whole life. Like, I feel like I know you. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
get that a lot. Because we're all just remembering. I mean, that's what we're doing too. This is just an exercise in remembering who we truly
Yeah.
are, which is love. That's our truth.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I
Absolutely.
can help
Yeah.
somebody remember, then like then I hope that person helps another person remember. And that's the ripple
Absolutely. And
effect
that
that we're doing
remembering is
for
so
each other.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, thank
thank
you
you,
so
Jeff.
much. I really appreciate your time, and this has been very nourishing for me, and I really honor your journey. Thank you.
Thanks.